Hello, and welcome to the Cultivating Confidence podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Grams. I am a life coach who specializes in anxiety, health, and human design. And I also happen to be a functional medicine pharmacist. This podcast is a compilation of conversations that I've had with clients and colleagues. So listen in as we explore the mind, body, and soul's confidence in its many forms. All right. On today's Unscripted, I have back with me again the amazing Katie. Yeah, that's what I have. I have the wonderful and amazing Katie Johnstone of Maine. Yes. And these are truly unscripted conversations. So we are going to have a good time. Do you have any topics in mind today?
I wanted to talk about changing your mind.
Okay.
Because I changed my mind about something humongous in my life.
Yeah.
And like we're in the depths of it. So I figured that,
Yes.
Because I think that we have a hard time accepting changing our minds. Mostly out of not wanting to disappoint people in our lives, which in my situation, I held back on making a giant decision, and it kind of hurt. It hurt somebody a lot. So that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah. Say more about not disappointing people.
Oh, that's like that's been my whole life. Being good, being perfect, putting myself on the back burner, just trying to do circus loops to impress people.
Give me an example of that.
Well, I stayed in a relationship for 12 years that wasn't right for me.
That's a big one.
And whole 12. I shouldn't say that. I would say 5. It's been 5 not being right for me. And the past couple have definitely been because I was scared of what people would think.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Which people?
Like the closest, to me, my mom, his mom, my family, my friends, our friends.
Yeah.
Like my entire circle of humans that are closest and mean the most to me. So it's me versus all of those other, you know what I mean? Like disappointing myself versus all of that. And that's a lot more to grapple with than just me. I can hold it in.
Right. Okay. So I have a question for you though. If you were to find out that one of those very close people of yours was doing something to make sure that you wouldn't be disappointed in them, how would you feel?
Oh, I would not like that at all. Yeah.
Even if it would be something that would disappoint you?
If they were doing it just for me, I would, yeah. Yeah. See, you flipped that.
Well, I just pointed out because I think there are more than just you and I that will take the beating for ourselves before we will stand up for ourselves and like live our lives the way we want to live. But if we find out that other people, especially people we love, our best friends, whoever your loved ones are, if you find out that that's what they're doing, you're like, what the heck is your problem? Don't live your life according to what I think you should be doing. Like, if this isn't right for you, then don't do that. Right?
Yeah. And it's
bullshit.
Like, it is bullshit. Because you sit and stew, and then then you just push it away. It's like push.
Right.
Don't speak. Don't speak through something. You're saying too much. It's too hard.
Right. I mean, we value other people's opinions and other people's lives more than our own. And lives being like how you live your life.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you look at like what you're focusing on in your life, you're not focusing on what everybody else is doing. Right. So we're spending such a large amount of time like focusing on what other people think of us when they're spending 4 seconds thinking about what we're doing. And then they go back to what they're obsessed with in the moment.
So this is what I tell people when they go to they don't want to go to the gym. They're scared to go to the gym of other people seeing them as like a beginner and they don't know what they're doing. Like nobody cares.
Yeah.
People are there for them and they're probably thinking the same thing. They're worried about what other people are judging them on their, whatever. So it's like, don't worry about what other people are thinking. It's none of your business.
Yeah. Yep. And even if they are thinking things, like they're never going to tell you.
No. Never.
So you have no proof that they're thinking anything at all. You might notice them looking or whatever, but like you're also looking at them. So, okay.
Have eyes wander.
Right. No, it's so true. And it's like, and even in those situations where if it's a gym that you go to regularly, that you might see those people again occasionally, but like for the most part, most examples are like people that you will never meet and never see again. And you're worried about their 12-second opinion of you.
Or the strangers on the internet. Whoa, that's a whole nother thing, is like the external validation of strangers from the internet. Yeah. Like how much I rely on that. And like always checking how many likes did I get? Oh, I got more likes. Let's go see who did it.
Right.
Like, why? Or you get disappointed when you spend all this time and energy on a post and you thought it was going to be really influential. People are gonna love it, and you got 3 and like 2 of them are your, one's your like sister and one's your mom. Like, cool.
Yes. It's so funny. And by funny I mean like horrifying and disappointing, but like but you have to laugh at it. You like, I think the first step is like being aware that you're trying to people please in these different ways, or like trying to get validation from somebody. Cause like people pleasing is on a similar scale. I mean, it is kind of what we're talking about, not disappointing people. I think it's a natural thing for so many of us who are raised to read the room and like behave accordingly. And it's terrifying to step out from that and do something that somebody might have an opinion on. Yeah. So then we sit and suffer and like in turn experience terrible emotions and just hide it from everybody.
Make emotional. Ugh. I mean, I wish my only problem right now is strangers on the internet.
Right.
But
I mean, same.
I said it once was, and I thought it was my worst problem.
Right. So I want to go back to changing your mind in general. So what was your biggest struggle with the idea that you were changing your mind about something big?
That this the length of time that it had been going on. And it's been a struggle to just kind of not really justifying and like explaining myself about it, because it had gone on for so long and I had stayed and been fine. I wasn't fine.
Right.
And so the final decision was made and it seemed like it came out of nowhere. Like there weren't any signs, or there was no fight. There wasn't this big blowout. Like it was just
a slow wearing away of the facade.
Yes. Facade.
Yeah.
Good word.
Did you have to deal with any guilt?
Oh yeah. Still. Just in that I did make it seem like I was fine and that it was good, the pretending, and we bought a house together. Like,
Right.
it was a mistake, but I can see how that would be a sign of like leading you on if you do something like that. It's like
Sure.
entering in any kind of giant contract where you have to sign a million papers is kind of a big deal, Katie.
Mm.
But then, so yeah, it seemed like it had been an immediate decision, and I mean, it was kind of, I was just done.
Yeah. Would you call it a breaking point?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, it wasn't necessarily a specific thing that happened, but I think the whole, like, this is what I've been trying to convince myself was right for me for so long. And then all of a sudden it was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't lie to myself like that anymore. Does that resonate?
Yeah. And I'm very thankful for my journaling, because I probably would have pushed off even longer and probably not even done it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I had to go back and look through like 3 or 4 journals and like 5 years of stuff and find little snippets here and there, like of my discontent and unhappiness and loneliness and all these big words that were like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yikes. And I would like not really go deep into it, because I knew if I let my true like thoughts come out, and Glennon Doyle says the knowing, then I have to do something about it. Right? Like 2 or 3 words and then move on. Like, oh, the dog's really cute today, or I'm gonna go to yoga.
Yeah. We're just gonna spill a couple drops.
Oops. And then go away. Shh.
Yeah.
Quiet down over there.
Yeah.
That is not comfortable, because this is comfortable. My life and my house and my dogs and dinner in front of the TV and same conversations, that's all comfortable.
Yeah.
And fine.
Well, and even if it's not comfortable, it's familiar. You know what to expect.
Yes.
It's predictable.
True. Yes.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that all of this can apply to so many different ways to change your mind in life. I went through a similar thing when I changed my mind about being a pharmacist full time. And like stepping into the coaching realm and like doing something different than I ever believed was possible for myself just a few years ago. Like, I went through so much guilt about income changing, and how much, again, like how much, kind of reflecting on what you mentioned, like all the time that I spent doing this and all the money and energy that I invested in creating this specific thing in my life. And now I'm just going to change my mind about it. Like, where do I get off? Right? Like this isn't how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh, it's not how it's supposed to be at all.
Right.
But.
Right. Well, and I happened to be in a relationship that was very surprisingly, not surprisingly, but my brain was shocked at how supportive my relationship was, or like how supportive my spouse was through the whole process. Because he's just like, oh yeah, I want you to do what makes you happy. And I'm like, that's a wild concept. What? Yeah. And I still went through the process of grief and of like, this is like believing that it wasn't okay and being scared and being completely terrified and not knowing what I was doing. And, oh my gosh, I'm doing the wrong thing. This takes too much effort. I should just go back to how things were. Well, I can't go back in that box anymore. Like,
can't fit me back in. Nope.
It's the toothpaste. We got the toothpaste out of the tube. You cannot put it back in. Nothing's going to be the same.
That's so true. And you know what ended up happening? Like all of it was the hardest, if I can swear, the hardest fucking thing. And I cried a lot. And but I have this amazing like group of people who have been supportive, and nobody's judging me, like not even really asking that. I mean, they're curious about,
Sure.
like, it's a big shock, so like,
Yeah.
whoa. But I haven't really gotten any like negative feedback really, or like questioning my choice and my decision. You know, so that's good to have that support. And I made sure I gave, like, I built that up, like gave some time to like, heads up, this is happening, before I did it. But yeah, so that's important, I think, to have. It's important.
Right. Well, and even if you don't have friends or family or anything that will support you, you can find people that will.
Yeah.
There are groups of people all over the place doing of all types of, for all types of reasons. And sometimes strangers on the internet might be a good place to start.
They're a great start. I found a tea circle of ladies that we sat around and drank tea and cried. That was very powerful. Yeah. It was good. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah. I think women's group, at least for people who identify as women, those can be super powerful places to be, because there's something about the feminine energy that just like, you don't get that a lot in society and out and about in normal daily life in most places. And like being with that strong, supportive energy, it's badass.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It is badass.
Yeah. Would recommend.
Highly.
Even if not in crisis.
Not just crisis, but in day-to-day life.
Yes.
Your podcast is like therapy for me.
Oh, I love it. And I want to thank you for being open and honest and vulnerable here, because this is what I think will help people more than, and that's why I would do it unscripted, because like I don't want to have an outline for what this is supposed to look like.
And I'll do an outline.
I know. I've yelled at you before about it.
For sure.
But yeah, getting back to it, so we talked about changing your mind. We talked about the big emotions that come along with that, about the support that we need or can create to help ourselves through whatever it is. I feel like this is a big theme in my life lately, of giving yourself permission to like make the decision.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It's almost like I need to like write myself a letter, like, dear Katie, struggle you're going through, like, this too shall pass. And I want to get that tattooed on my wrist, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, just opening myself up that it's okay and it's going to be okay. And I need to trust myself, because I know what's best for me. Like, only I know what feels right in my body and in my mind. And I can take considerations from other people, but not use that as my basis for making major decisions in my life.
Yeah. It's like holding space for yourself to just be in the suck.
Yeah.
Because you're not,
because it's gonna
yeah,
sucks.
especially like, I mean, there's a grief process anytime you change your mind about something big like that, but like allowing yourself to grieve about it instead of just berating yourself about how stupid you were, because there's going to be plenty of that coming up if you're anything like me, of the like self-criticism.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Whenever you notice and can sort of nudge yourself back, like just remember that you're a human and you're normal and you were doing the best that you could. We're all, I think we're all doing the best that we can at all times, even if it doesn't look very pretty or polished or nice. Right?
Yes.
It helps me live my life a lot easier. And then I have to remind myself that I too am doing the best that I can, at all given times, and it doesn't always look pretty. Yeah. But like holding space for yourself to have emotions about it, to grieve over the loss of whatever it was, even if it's just the loss of who you used to be in the process. Right?
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one,
Because
I think.
big one, because that was a big basis of the decision, was like, there wasn't any, abuse of any kind, like not emotional, no physical, and always supportive, just a great human being, like just amazing. And I am a different person than I was when we first met.
Yeah.
Like completely different. I mean, it was 12 years ago.
Mhm.
Like I hope that people are different, but I specifically like have made noticeable changes in my life, and letting go of who I used to be like has been hard, but I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And this was a huge step in that direction, because
Yeah.
that was a like part of my life, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and good for you for not, because I think it might also be very easy to try to blame your significant other or like try to force them to change with you. Like from what it sounds like, and I know we've had conversations about this already, but it kind of sounds like you're allowing him to be himself as well. And like it just no longer fits. And it's
Yeah.
probably best for both of you to
That was
move
like,
on.
I didn't want to like project my life and my changes onto somebody else and make them feel like I'm judging and wanting them to change, because that's not me. Like I can
Right.
only change me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to go through all these changes and do all these things and backflips and all this stuff that you don't want to do just for me, because that is a recipe for resentment.
Right.
I did not want that at all.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And it's one thing to like go through changes and grow on your own and like, I mean, I'm kind of going through that too, but in a very different way with my relationship. Again, in the like, I mean, I have gone through so many phases of I'm terrified that I'm going to grow too much, that this is no longer going to be good for me. And then I kind of like back myself off from the ledge. I'm like, we're not there right now. That's very far from reality for me right now. I can see that that is a potential thing that happens. And when I get there, I will be able to handle it, whatever that looks like, you know?
mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of normal fear that happens in relationships, especially when there's a journey of personal growth that wasn't there from the beginning. And especially if you've been together with somebody for decades and decades, like you're going to be like, especially like high school sweethearts. Like if you end up getting married and that's your person, that's amazing. And you're going to go through different phases of your life where you are a completely different person, hopefully, than you were when you're 18.
Hopefully.
I hope you're not the same person your spouse isn't going to be. And if you can make that work together, that's amazing. And if not, that's amazing. You can go your separate ways and you have permission to do that. And it doesn't have to be a big blow up fight or a big like reason. You don't have to have a big reason. Like you can just know, it's that knowing, like you mentioned, of like, this is no longer right for me. I've done my due diligence in what I think might make it work, and it's just not. And it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you touched on something that I wrote down, and I'm glad I did because I would have forgot. But you were talking about looking back at your journal entries, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about the importance of like self-reflection and reassessing what you want in your life. Because again, another topic that I think so many people just live their life in default. And if you're not willing to look and like re-choose your entire life right now, you might want to think about doing that.
It like brings me back to I'll be happy when, like it's the future, whatever it is, like when I lose the weight, when I get the job, do this, when I do that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you're on your deathbed and you didn't do the things that you wanted to do because time is flying by. Like,
yeah,
we are, 40's coming for me. Okay. Like, I'm okay with it. But I want to be better than I was yesterday. I mean, and it doesn't always happen, but that's the goal.
yeah,
And so without looking back, you don't, it's kind of cool to look back and like see, wow, look at how far I've come,
right.
And then it's also like, well, you've been saying the same thing over and over again and you haven't done anything about it. Like,
Yeah. Cue
be a kick in
self-criticism. Right. I think it's really easy to have the benefit of hindsight when you're going through any big changes of the like, oh, I should have known then. Oh, I should have known then. It's like, well, you didn't. And it
you
doesn't
did.
do you any good to criticize yourself about not being ready, or even if you did know, maybe you're not ready to make the change yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, just give yourself permission to have been the person you were, right?
Yeah.
Because we shit on ourselves about like how we should have known, I should have seen that. But I think there was something that I saw recently that a lady was talking about how she has never once had a conversation with a woman who has made some big change in her life or whatever. She kept saying like, I have never had a conversation with a woman and they haven't been like, oh, I knew this was
Yeah.
going on, or I knew this was happening, or I knew this is how I felt. It's the
No.
knowing that we suppress in ourselves. And then when we're finally willing to face it, then we're like, oh, well, I knew the whole time. I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. And then like, that's just not helpful for anybody. No. Like, okay, well, you're here now. Yeah. So
that whoever's doing that, you're not alone.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, I don't have the benefit of regular journal entries. I sometimes get in spurts where I think I'm going to, and I make it a solid 3 days before I'm done again. So I think that's awesome that you have made
January, and it's like almost full. So it's been a year.
Yeah. But yeah, it's awesome that you have that. And I would encourage anyone listening to journal if it feels good for you and it's something that you want to make a part of your life, because you can reflect on different things and pick up trends probably way faster, like you have mentioned earlier, than you would have otherwise. But yeah, even if you don't have that, really sitting and reassessing, and like what I meant by like reassessing your life, or like re-choosing what you want, like part of what I went through when I decided to step back from my pharmacist job, I was like, okay, what do I actually want in my life right now? I know that this fit me up until now, but what do I want now going forward? And I think it can freak some people out when you think about doing that with like a long-term relationship, especially if there's nothing wrong. But like really reassess, who am I right now? Who am I with right now? Who are they? Do we still fit together the way that we want it to? And be intentional about what you're doing. And even to the extent of like, am I still like, if the slate was wiped clean, would I still choose the hobbies that I have? Would I still choose the bedding that I have? Like, right? If you need to buy new sheets or something, what type of sheets do you actually want to buy? It doesn't matter that you went with, solid gray sheets for your entire life. Like, maybe you want bright red this time, like starting now, right?
Or something I just thought of when you were talking about that. It's like, in the relationship realm, would I choose to be in this relationship if I had just gotten into it now?
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
And am I hanging on to it only because of the time that I have invested and the money and energy that I have invested, right? And it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to walk away from that sort of energetic investment.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest challenge is just the time. And obviously like the feelings and the comfort level and the familiarity, leaving that, going into the future unknowns. Where am I gonna live? that was
yeah. And like the wherever I want is both terrifying and super freeing.
That's like I still have to go to work every day and find somebody to watch my dog and be close.
Okay, hold on though.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to do those things. But like that's something that as you're reassessing, do I want to stay employed? Because you could just cash in everything you own and get an RV and then run all over the countryside, right? Like for who knows how long? I don't know.
Don't put those ideas in my head.
But it is an option. But like that's what I mean by like assess what's in your life. Like if kids are involved, like that's another thing. Like I technically don't have to, I don't have kids, but so this might be easier for me to say, but like I technically don't have to care for them, right? But I love them and I choose to. I love my pets and I choose to take care of them. I choose to find somebody to watch them while I can't be there. I choose to remain employed at this place, right? Because it helps me with paying bills and security and having a stable income. Like I get like, that's what I mean by being intentional. And it could be just it's right for me right now. It might not be the job that you're going to stick with forever and ever and ever and ever. Or if you really love it, or like, hopefully you really love it if you're going to stay there forever. But like, yeah, all of that, just bring it under the microscope and choose it again. And you'll feel so much better. And it won't feel like an obligation nearly as much, because you're like, nope, I could change my mind. I could change everything about my life. I could move to a foreign country, change my name and make up a whole new backstory. And this life no longer exists. Right. I got all kinds of good ideas today.
That's a good one.
But like people do that. So it is an option, right? Like there are people who just like disappear. Like, all right. I mean, like in a good way because they chose to, hopefully not that they were taken or anything, but anyway.
Authorities.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. It's true though. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. 99% of our lives are what we choose to do or not do. And just like, if you notice that it's a choice, and if you notice that this is what I'm choosing to do, it relieves so much stress and so much, like, I don't want to live a life out of obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be free.
Yes. Let's be free.
Be free.
All right. What sort of closing words of wisdom do you have today?
Do everything you can to close the gap between the knowing and the doing. Glennon Doyle. But living by now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Easier said than done.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be hard.
Right.
We can do it.
Mm-hmm. And we can do it better together as well.
True.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
All right, Katie, thank you once again for being here today. I always appreciate our conversations, and especially when you're willing to share them with random strangers on the internet.
Yeah, happy to share.
All right.
Self.
Take care. Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. Many of you will be able to take the ideas that you've heard and apply them in your daily life, and that's really all you need. That's amazing. But for those of you who could use a little one-on-one help with how to make these things actually work for you in your real life, please reach out. The link to schedule a consult with me is in the show notes. You don't have to do this alone. See you soon.